There are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
They believe we defend criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploited the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available. SM Group International Limited, your solutions partner for the latest innovations, brands and competent staff to meet your needs. We provide products and services in the following divisions: executive services, event rental and services, power and heavy equipment, construction and property management, food and beverage, aggregate and sales and distribution. Check out more on our products and services at www.smgrouptt.com. Contact us at 221-7445 or email at info@smgrouptt.com. We are SM Group International, your solutions partner.
The best for your baby is at thebesttoys.com. From the best strollers, car seats, baby carriers, high chairs, booster seats, rockers, jumpers and bouncers, walkers, baby blankets, feeding accessories, bathtubs. Visit us in-store at Forces Flagship McLean. Shop online now at thebesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 332-BABY. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
Feeling drained? Struggling to keep up? It's time to take control of your wellness. On this episode of Wellness Unlocked, we're diving into the key nutrients your body needs for all-day energy and balance. With 100% or more of your daily essential vitamins, plus added chromium to support healthy blood sugar, this is complete wellness in a single soft gel. Join us as we uncover how small changes can make a big impact on your health. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and take the first step toward better health.
My name is Dr. Stephen Carroll, the CEO at Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist, and we are committed to making good private healthcare affordable.
For all your medical needs, including dental, radiology, laparoscopy, behavioral and mental health, along with many other services, contact us for more information at 235-5479.
Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private healthcare is affordable.
Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. Storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. The ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional, and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming, and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
WESN.
Good morning and welcome to this special edition broadcast of AM Prime on WESN, where, and stay with me here, so the talking points meet the prime issues. When I wrote that, I was like, I love that so much. Reason being, we are kind of joining up AM Prime with the host of Talking Point, Mr. Sean Michael Small. You know, we all know and love him. So he's joining me on the program today as Naomi is away on a business trip. So Sean is joining me today. And I could not be happier because we have some really interesting topics to discuss today. And of course, you know, it is Wild Wednesday, so stay tuned. We have a very jam-packed and wonderful show for you here on AM Prime this morning. So again, my name is Jada McLeod, and if you've ever wanted to hear two talkative hosts unpack some of the region's most pressing and controversial issues with not that much fluff, you are in the right place. So welcome to AM Prime, Sean. How are you doing?
I am, well, it's a little earlier than I'm used to. Right, and plans didn't quite work out, but you know, I'm here, and this is an interesting topic to get into, but what makes it interesting is, whereas it might be somewhat controversial or extremely controversial in a lot of other Western countries, it's oddly silent here.
Yeah.
And I never really thought about it until you're like, hey, let's talk about this, and I'm like, yeah, let's talk about this. And then the more I thought about it, the more that I started to think, our male-female dynamic, I wonder to what extent is this maybe one area where our laissez-faire approach to life maybe worked?
So the topic we at hand would be Western feminism versus Caribbean socio-cultural realities, specifically Trinidad and Tobago, because I mean, let's speak for home, right? So we're going to be discussing issues of race in the context of feminism, class in the context of feminism, religion, colonial trauma, and matriarchal family structures. And I want to introduce this point. When I was in school and I was doing social studies, and I could probably go back to my old school teacher, one of the things she taught us is that Trinidad and Tobago, we live in a matriarchal family structure. But outwardly, and I think Sean would have agreed here, men kind of take the reins. And we were wondering why that would have happened and why is it still persisted, especially in the face of feminism all around the world.
Well, so one of the things that I follow a lot is foreign politics, because that's more ideology based than local politics, right? Local politics, I mean, even the race part of it is not ideological as it is in America or in other parts of the world.
So what would you call it, practical or laser?
Honestly, I wouldn't necessarily, I wouldn't want to say practical. It's divisive, yes, but I don't think it's not ideological, because one is a majority race, the other is a minority. So certain ideological theories say, well, we have to fight for the rights of this race over that race, and that's when things kind of get a little gnarly when you're trying to overcompensate. That's what tends to happen with a lot of activism in the Western world right now.
Punching up, punching down.
Yeah. So we don't necessarily have issues per se. And then on top of that, race is political, right? So it does come up in the national conversation. And then more recently, there's LGBTQ activism, right? And every now and then that comes up in the national conversation. One aspect of feminism, which I think at time before was maybe an issue, and that's reproductive rights and abortion, the legality of abortion and not so. But even that doesn't really come up that often, if at all.
I think it does come up that often, but specifically in women's spaces, women to women.
Right.
I don't think it's a conversation most women feel comfortable having with men and or around men. I think in the US it's a lot more acceptable, maybe Canada a lot more acceptable, because there's this push to include men in everything that we do, because you want to get men to be feminist fighters as well. But in Trinidad, sometimes I think there's a lot of a shame on a woman's behalf. On women's behalf, to talk about certain issues with men.
I mean, just a segue, like female reproductive rights is centered in 1980s medical science, right? One of the things that a former abortion doctor said is, look, you don't have to kill the fetus to terminate the pregnancy. And I think like once you kind of, because they're more viable earlier, so you have a legitimate course of action to say, look, for whatever reason, I think like 5 months in, you could start to consider, hey, let's take the fetus out, right? And medical...
Exactly.
Right, and that ends the pregnancy. If you don't want the child, of course, you could give it up for adoption. Right now, getting a baby to adopt is one of the hardest things in the Western world. And if there's a medical emergency, that could happen. The child could survive. And I mean, it kind of sounds harsh, but if you have to, around that time, if the fetus survives, if it doesn't, if it doesn't, depending, you don't actually have to outright kill it. And once you start to look at it through that lens, all of a sudden, because now you don't need an abortion law, right? Of course, now there's the earlier term stuff where it's still a bit controversial, right? And that could be, that's a whole other separate debate. But the point is, like, science is progressing, the world is progressing. I don't even know if, to what extent, we're kind of stuck on the debate as the Americans are, because we're not necessarily having it. And I don't know if this is one area where I think men and women in TNT, it's almost like if we kind of accept certain traditional norms, and that plays out on the domestic side of things, which is the one thing that regularly hits the headlines, unfortunately.
So I had to look this up, and I know everybody's asking, Jada, how do you not know this? But they were asking, I was asking if abortion is legal in Trinidad, and it's saying, no, it's not, which is weird, because I've heard of many women in Trinidad talk about wanting to go and get an abortion. I don't know.
You probably leave the country or find, I mean, technically speaking, around the world, you'll find a doctor that'll do it illegally. That runs certain risks, right?
Yeah, exactly. But the fact that women would even turn to something like that. But let's discuss abortion law, right? Because in the example that you just gave, there are other options besides just killing the fetus outright. You know, you can.
Well, it depends. It depends on the circumstances and what stage you're at. Because let's say you're 4 months in, now, you know, to what extent is it still a mass of cells? To what extent is it starting to be a viable sentient? The last thing I saw was that around 5 months, there is some studies that suggest that the fetus can feel pain. So like now you're like, okay, maybe that is essentially small human, right? But before that, and I assume to some extent, contraception and morning after and things like that, that's a much different ethical debate, probably is available in some, of course contraception is available, but those things are available. So now the question is, what do you do like between month 1, 2 to 4, right? Like science hasn't caught up with that yet, I don't think.
I don't know, I think ethics need to slow down because we're coming up with all of these different exceptions, whether we do it at 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. At the end of the day, personally, it was a life, right? I mean, and I'm going to take my personal opinion out of it now, but okay, it was a life. But even beforehand, there are other options, or there are other options where you keep the pregnancy and it goes straight to term, and then you have adoption and all of that. But what I think I wanted to talk about was abortion law and the fact that if a woman is pregnant, maybe she even wants the baby, but complications, the baby can't make it, and she needs to have an abortion, but abortion law blocks that. Are there any exceptions in the law, and not just in Trinidad, but can we debate that? Whether or not exceptions should be made for situations like that.
And that's the thing, like, again, usually what you need in that case is to take the baby out, not necessarily to kill the baby, right? So depending on how you know, at what stage it's at, you know, baby might survive, maybe might not survive, right? And that's where I think part of the problem is those examples are the exception, but they're being used. Because usually when such laws are debated abroad, they don't want to say, well, let's have an exception in the law for an exception. No, they want the law to be open for the exception case, right? There's not a lot of, yes, we see it on medical TV shows, but I mean, obviously, if you take all of the examples, it's not going to be like a very small number. But statistically speaking, this is not a thing where, you know, they're in such distress and you have to pick one. And like a lot of those things are, at least to my understanding, niche cases, right?
But actually, a lot of women do suffer from miscarriages. I remember the number. It's quite high.
Right, but like if it's a miscarriage, well then, you know.
But I remember there was a situation where the abortion law kind of prohibited that. Like even in the case of a miscarriage, the woman was still held liable for not being able to carry the baby to term or something like that. That
wasn't here, right?
No.
Yeah. No, and I think that goes back to a traditional mindset. In some cultures, it's like it's almost the woman's responsibility to carry, to provide an heir, and if you can't, it's your fault, right? And if you have a miscarriage and something is wrong with you, or some nonsense like that. You don't necessarily need an abortion, I believe, to treat with those situations, because it's a miscarriage, right? So generally speaking, you know, it kind of depends on how you craft your law, and hopefully we don't craft our laws that badly here, but we kind of do. But I mean, at the end of the day, technically that won't be an abortion, so it should not be prevented to treat situations like that by anti-abortion laws.
Why don't we have these discussions more in Trinidad and Tobago? Is it that, because usually we tend to follow everything that the US does, right? But why isn't it more of a national conversation? Is it that women just sort of accept the more traditional mindsets?
What do we discuss?
Personally, from what I've heard, the only thing that we discuss maybe options in which to take care of the baby after it's brought to term.
No, but like politically now, what do we discuss? We discuss the usual bubble. We don't even discuss racial issues seriously in politics. It's more of a bubble thing, right? Where we kind of, it's used in the most lowbrow way, right? We're not actually having serious discussions of why the statistics of this demographic versus statistics of that demographic to see, okay, how do we solve certain problems? We have situations similar to North America with crime statistics being more of a certain racial demographic than another. We have certain inner city and poverty, similar situations kind of expressed and created in the same way. And we haven't necessarily asked, well, why is that so? Is it proper to be so? Is it natural to be so? Is it unnatural to be so? What do we do to cause it to be so? You know, how is our race relations impacting economic development, social development? What are we doing about it? We don't really speak about those things, right? It's just like, you know, it's we time now, whoever we is, and it's just whichever race votes for whichever party, and that's as far as we're willing to kind of discuss it. With regards to LGBTQ issues, for the most part, it's just one of those things where, and with women's issues, society seems to be tolerant until it's not.
Society isn't tolerant. I would die on that.
Well, here's the thing. On Carnival, right? I've seen many LGBTQ person not hide it, right? They're very open about their sexuality. And for the most part, I don't really see anyone taking a great issue with it, right?
It's Carnival, everybody drunk, so.
But you know what I mean? Like, to some extent, yes, certain events and parties and clubs are kind of underground, but then on another side, some of it is open, so there's this weird kind of parallel dynamic that exists at the same time.
I mean, as you go back to the whole exception and rule thing, when Carnival is done, people, they pick up their biases again, because I think Carnival is just like a one-off, if so much, because if you really think about it, people that's most likely to quote-unquote persecute, and I hope nobody takes this the wrong way, persecute LGBTQ persons might be, say, religious people. But those religious people, they're not around on Carnival. They're usually doing camps and all of these different things, or they lock up in their houses, or they're doing missionary week. From what my perspective, my experience. So maybe it's because they don't really, because what you're seeing there, I grew up in a very religious context. What you're seeing there with people exposing themselves LGBTQ and Carnival, I've personally never seen it because I personally never been to anything with Carnival.
They're not exposing themselves like flashing, right?
Like
but they're not necessarily suppressing themselves either, right? The thing is, one of the interesting things for a small country, we do a very good job of separating.
We do.
Right? So, like, if you go to West Moorings or St. Clair, it feels very different if you go to Arima, if you go to Princestown, right?
Or Laventille, yeah.
So, or Laventille. Well, Laventille by itself is a unique experience, right? That not a lot of places, right? So, and there's a lot of communities, as we do separate ourselves, but there's also like this weird thing where we separate ourselves, but then there's communities like certain parts of Belmont, certain parts of St. Anne's Cascade, where you have rich and poor, various races, you know, certain parts of St. James, etc., certain parts of Diego Martin, certain parts of Glencoe, where they're not separated by regions. They're in the same area, right? Various socioeconomic and racial backgrounds, and it just is, right? So it's one of those weird things, because when I drive around the country, I'm like, this is kind of weird how different it all feels, right? But the thing is, men and women aren't separated, right? For the most part, most households are heterosexual. They have, you know, if there's kids, there's most likely a daddy and a mommy. And I don't know how we got to this point where it seems like in other parts of the world, there's this big political movement, and here it's like, oh, well, women work.
Yeah.
We have a female prime minister, like, I don't think it took like this great big political ideological effort to be like, we must elect her. Like, yes, it's acknowledged.
I don't think it was allowed, but I mean, I don't want to take away, not saying you are, but taking away from the efforts of women, because even women in those positions of power, even though they're there, they still face a great amount of discrimination. But even having women there, I don't think men are against women being in power, but even when they're in power, it almost still feels like men are still trying to control the women in power, as though they're being puppeteered. Sometimes that's what it feels like.
But I think like that could be a situation, to some extent we do have to ask, because we're still young, right? So there's a certain dynamic with gender roles.
People trust men more than they trust women.
Well, part of it is, and the thing is, one of the odd things about it is at times women in certain things trust men more than they do women.
Exactly.
Right? But I think part of it is also that, I remember as a psychiatrist, part of his practice was to help women advance their career. And one of the things that he said was, look, the really educated, smart, academically killer, elite women. The problem is, one of the major differences between men and women and those who have ambitions for power is that the really capable ones are not as crazy as the men, are not as necessarily as obsessive about the men. So they have a more balanced outlook on life, right? And then there is that kind of catch-22 that we can't get over, which is natural biology. If a couple wants kids, the biological male can't get pregnant, right? Exactly. The biological female has to. And we could try to be as equal as we want, but at the end of the day, if you're absent from the workplace for an extended period of time, your co-workers are still there contributing. So you don't want to penalize the woman for not being there, but the flip side is you can't like just put everything on pause and say, I know Jim or even Sarah, you all did good work this month, but we can't promote you all because Laura is off on maternity leave and she deserves a fair chance to the promotion too. Like it's this kind of weird thing where it's kind of imbalanced whichever way you go, right? So what do you do? And that biological hurdle, that's one of the things that we haven't really. And here's the real question. We haven't really overcome it, right? Because you can't just procedure your way out of...
You can't overcome it. It's right? Biology.
Well, so scientifically, in theory, you can. It's just that would we accept that solution? And that solution would be artificial wombs, and basically you're not carrying the child anymore.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna make granny fall down.
I mean, to some extent, I'm sure there are some women who would like it, and there might even be some cases, the technology might be developed. For those cases, some women go through very high-risk pregnancies and have very horrible symptoms, morning sickness and the like, when they go through pregnancy. So arguably, you could argue that it might not be ideal, but it might be a great relief and benefit to some expectant mothers, right? But then, of course, now you develop such technology for that. It's not going to take long before some career woman is going to say, well, you know, I need to make partner by 30, but I still want to have a kid. So, you know, we'll use science to have the kid. And we already have situations where career-oriented people, men and women, they kind of ignore family considerations, right? If you could ignore the pregnancy, it solves the issue about that, right? Which is why there are some career women who just don't have children or have children very late. But the really skilled ones who are self-aware and smart and are able to like anticipate and think ahead from the very beginning. It seems as though, you know, businesses in Canada, which is where this was in practice, law firms, they had a hard time keeping their female partners, right? Why don't they have a lot of female partners in the law firm? It's because at some point, and this is the other thing, women tend to like to marry men of equal status.
Or higher.
Right, so when both of you all are highly successful, you only need one salary to live, right? It's only really needed at that level. So it's just this kind of natural progression. So you don't necessarily, and I want to go back to the point, when you look at CEOs, they work too much.
They do.
Right? Steve Jobs died of cancer because I think to some extent he neglected it, right? And I do wonder to what degree he neglected it, because they would have gotten away from him being able to work, right? They work, when they wake up, they're on the treadmill, they're working. Eating breakfast, they're working, right? At dinner, they're working,
and that goes to both men and women. That goes to both men and women.
Right, but there's more men are psychologically imbalanced to do that, from what I understand, than women, right?
And socially encouraged. Women aren't socially encouraged to do things like that. If a woman is doing that, they're gonna call her obsessive.
But like, how many women want to? Because that is not really healthy. You're working essentially like 80 hours a week. You're working every waking hour, right?
I mean, they do it.
Well, no, because at the end of the day, gender norms are not an absolute. Not all women are going to be Y and all men are going to be X, right? You're going to be some that they have a different set of priorities. But it is interesting how, to some degree, what we view as social constructs with the gender roles, naturally in certain examples, the more you free things up, the more the average tends to kind of go to the stereotype, because to some extent that's how we're wired. I think there's one doctor that essentially said for parenting, You know, men are wired to get the endorphins when they play with the kids. Women get it when they nurture the kids. And the reason why biology probably evolved that way is you need one parent to kind of challenge and push the child to not just be sheltered and safe, but you need the same parent to ensure that things don't go off the rail.
Yeah, so is it that women are more biologically, what's what I'm looking for? They're more biologically pushed to not to do things like be working on the treadmill at 5 a.m.
No, I think that's just, I think again, that's more like just most women that are smart aren't crazy. There are going to be a subsection of men who are obsessive, right, to be highly successful. I don't even know if you could say that they're that smart, because a lot of these high-end tycoons, they're not necessarily geniuses per se,
so
right?
They are divided from regular men as well. So
I guess you could say that, yeah.
Box. So my next question, I guess, our finishing question that we can have you discuss here would be, does race and post-colonialism shape Caribbean feminism differently? I know we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I wanted to intersect a little bit more when it comes to specifically African women and Indian women.
So one of the interesting things, I had one of the callers on Talking Point, he pointed out, and I do believe this is to be true, and it's a major cause of problems in the West for the African diaspora. The culture was stripped away. So we see in our Indian community, right? But we see in our Indian community, they still have their culture. So they still have, to some extent, you know, for better or worse, they could kind of trace their traditions back. They have that foundation to say this is something that we've had for however long. You know, it's not so easy to get rid of, right? I mean, look, they had that situation with child marriages and they just didn't want to let it go. And I feel that is to some extent just because, look, this is how we've always done it. Why are you forcing us to change, right? But the African Trinbagonian doesn't have that per se. To some extent, how much of the knowledge of African culture has to be rediscovered, right? And because of that, you don't have that kind of backstop of tradition. Like when all else fails and you don't know what to do, you just blindly follow tradition, because a lot of it, while there are negatives, they're essentially just hard-won lessons of life experience. Like, look, to survive, this is more often than not the best way to do it. Not always necessarily the most comfortable way or the nicest way, right? But because we don't have that, then the family values now. To what extent, and this is one of the weird things where, to some extent, it's allowed Afro-Trinbagonian women to be more progressive than Indo-Trinbagonian women.
Yeah, that's the thing there. Because I'm wondering, because the culture of African women was lost, is it that's the reason why they kind of latch on, or we kind of latch on to Western or American values a little bit more than Indo-Trinidadian women? Indo-Trinidadian women protect their culture a lot better than Afro women. Is it because we don't know it that we kind of latch on? Where did our culture come from? Afro-Trinidadian women, where did our culture come from?
I mean, that's a good question, right? To some extent, it comes from the church, whichever church that is. To some extent, it comes from, well, yes.
Where there's a white Jesus. That
basically, yes, right? Although, again, you know, then with regards to the Baptists and so forth, like, I hesitate to kind of pigeonhole Christianity, because what it means now, right?
True.
Is a bit more diverse. Yes, back in the day, the priests were all white, but that's not the case right now, right? But to be fair to what you're saying, we're looking at the root cause, and the root cause is back in the day, right? So that's probably where it started. And yes, I always say we import things, and it's kind of like we somehow successfully imported feminist ideals, but we didn't take it too far, if that makes sense. Like, we just had this natural thing, because as we were talking about, I don't remember women in TNT having to march in order to be allowed to work. I could be wrong, but if that's the case, no one has talked about it. I've heard of similar movements happening in England for voting rights and in America for working rights and stuff like that. But we don't really talk about it. So if it did happen, forgive me, but then we should talk about it more. It almost seems like, I know for like my grandparents' generation, I don't really know of a lot of women who worked, but you know, post World War II, my parents' generation, so they would have been born like just about after that time, in the 50s or so forth.
Is that the US was louder about it? Because, I mean, they didn't have as natural a progression as that we had. I mean, men fought against women fighting. I mean, going back to work. Like, that was something that women had to fight for. But here, it's almost like it was just, and as you just said, it was almost as if it was just accepted. Like, yeah, of course women work. Like, I remember one time when I was really, really young, I was speaking to my father about something that's going on with feminism. And he was like, no, you can do anything that you want to. There's no stopping anything. So why is it that, and then when I went to my uncles and everything, even though they tended to be very masculine, protectors of the house, when it came to empowering the women in our family, they just did it. It wasn't like a, don't go and do whatever you want to do. And I do not think that I was the exception.
And that's usually a traditionally held belief. And I think that is rooted a lot in the past. And one of the reasons why that happened in the past and why it was practical in the past because we didn't have certain advances that we do now, right? It's kind of hard for women to work when you're pregnant or when women have certain...
Yeah, but you take 2-3 years off.
No. Every month, women have certain requirements, and when you don't, but you see, you can't take it for granted. You have products to help you deal with that now, and running water, plumbing, toilets, right? I'm talking about way back, right? Things were a lot more complicated then. And to what extent do people who don't understand female anatomy would get freaked out by that way back then, right? So. And remember, life expectancy not too long ago was, everyone, on average, you die in your 30s, right? Half the kids aren't going to make it to adulthood. So you can't just say, like, well, we'll just have 2 kids and we'll stop there. Like, that's not really a thing, right? Both of those children could die before they're 10 years old. So the whole dynamics of life was so different then. So now we reach this point where it's a convergence of, I guess you could say, our unique aspects of our culture with, of course, modern advances that allowed us to just kind of reach this point, right? What's interesting, though, is how come, because we have this weird mix of conservatism and progressivism, right? And I'm not speaking about Republican, Democrat. Conservatism is ultimately you want to maintain the status quo because too much disruption could be damaging. Whereas being progressive is about changing the status quo because if you maintain everything, you could stagnate and that could be damaging, right? And we are conservative, religious conservative country for the most part, right? But yet we accept certain progressive ideals far easier than certain other countries. Maybe it's because our politics aren't wrapped up in that, so we don't have anyone with an agenda now, either yes, pushing for certain things, but more importantly, pushing against them, right? There's no one saying on a campaign trail saying, no, women should not work, right? Or this race or that race should be whatever, or the LGBTQ people should not have these rights. There's no one actually trying to advocate and be an activist against these things, outwardly at least, right? So,
as you were talking there, it makes me, I brought up the point, is it that we are the mecca of what it looks like to kind of have certain values in a sort of a way where we have traditionalism and progressivism? But then I was thinking about it a little further on, and I was like, going back to what you said in the beginning, we kind of take a laissez-faire approach because I think it's not that we don't have issues, we just don't tend to address it. Like when I had Mr. Kennedy Mirage from can't remember, Pride TT on, and we were discussing when they try to lobby for certain rights in the government, for parliament to kind of discuss certain things, they may have been heard privately, but when it came to actually doing something publicly, the public display by some ministry or ministers or people in leadership, they went silent. But privately, you can have a discussion with them. So I was wondering what keeps people, and let's give it to women and feminism. Say somebody from CAISO wants to discuss something, or Feminism in TNT, that organization wants to discuss rights of women in parliament or something like that. They may talk about it privately, but when it goes publicly, there's a cutoff, there's a quietness. Why?
Well, I think the main reason for that is less to do about those things, although with regards to LGBTQ, you can see, and maybe to some extent feminism, you don't want to rock the boat, right?
So if the boat, does the boat need rocking?
But here's the thing. One of the things that it's hard to know is politicians don't want to rock the boat for a lot of reasons, and they're slow, if not unwilling, to move on a lot of issues, not just issues like that. Now, to some extent, yes, I do think that because we are so religious conservative, right? And generally speaking, politicians around the world do this tap dance. Now, in America and Canada and the UK and certain countries like that, yes, it became more mainstream to be progressive on certain things. But we're in this weird spot where we informally accept a lot.
Yes,
but if you kind of throw it out there and you push for it, you might get a pushback. In part because, and I think people in TNT are aware of this, certain aspects of activism in America and Canada and the United Kingdom kind of went off the rails in the last 10 years, right?
Yeah.
And fortunately, I think I haven't really seen that happen there. When Kaiso puts anything out, for the most part, I'm like, that seems practical. That seems fine.
But that kind of outburst that they have in the US, that's not going to work here. People will say that you are doing too much. People will,
right.
Yeah.
So, but the thing with the politicians and why they don't really want to act, there's a lot of things they don't act on. They talk about diversification and they don't diversify. They talk about tourism and food security, but they don't deal with agriculture and tourism, the tourism industry. They talk about crime, but look how lead-footed politicians appear about crime. We'll wait and see how this administration goes, right? And most issues bring it up, and you'll see that to some extent how limited the response is, right?
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to changing legislation. And then when they do change legislation, is it good? Is it ever really well thought out? So then now, like, to some extent, who do you trust if you want to make abortion legal? Who do you trust if you want to change laws for gay rights? Who do you trust if you want to change laws for whatever feminist issue that you have? Because they might make a mess of it, right? It's just one of those weird things. We complain about people who we then say, but we expect you to fix the problems that we have, even though we complain that you're so stupid.
Yeah.
So I don't want to put it on the unwillingness to engage on those issues, that it's unique to those issues. I think it's kind of like that's the norm for politicians, but it's also the norm for society. You will always have, look, for noise pollution, right? There's a very vocal minority of the population on that issue. Culturally, I think we accept it too easily. And because of that, the politicians have zero incentive to change the status quo. Because in a very similar way, if you take away the status quo of the environment for fetes and parties, but that's ingrained in our culture, what will the rest of the population who apparently are willing to turn a blind eye to noise pollution, even if it affects them negatively, the politicians are probably afraid of finding out what they will, how they will react or what they will say.
Yeah. Because almost like socially, we're quite laissez-faire. I think that's
I think that allowed us to accept, okay, women are working.
Yeah.
Like, look, we had our first female prime minister, our first female president, our first female police commissioner. The criticisms of those individuals, I don't really think had anything to do with their gender and had more to do with the individuals themselves, right? Especially with the commissioner.
Yeah, it's almost like we're just not as loud about it as that can really be it. I don't think it's that we don't have the perspectives, we just don't voice those perspectives.
Well, that's the other problem. The population doesn't voice a lot.
Yeah.
Right? Except in the rum shop, they do it informally.
Exactly. But when it comes to actually making some change in, say, the political forum, there's hardly any discussion. And as I go back to what we were saying before, privately, sure, publicly.
But ironically, one of the real imbalances that we see, and then to kind of close where we started off, as what I said, it's the domestic violence issue. That is the one that we can't get a handle on. That's where, you know, because I think the traditional values are still so ingrained somehow in certain women, that whole phrase, if he doesn't beat me, he doesn't love me, like, I don't get it, but it's there, right? And if that's what some people think, whether man or woman, family units, whatever, and you're not going to report it, well then it'll never be addressed, right? Until you hear either the woman got killed or made a suicide.
And then of course we start to make noise about it afterwards.
Right,
and we have
no one addresses, okay, but what needs to change to prevent it from happening again? Yeah. Because the police can't prevent that.
Which brings me back to quite laissez-faire on certain issues, and I don't want to give the excuse of, you know, yes, we are traditional, but speak up speak up, because when something happens, you have a lot to say, right? So say it.
See, that's the problem. When we're culturally laissez-faire, we're not proficient in speaking up. That's why we only really speak up in our vote every 5 years. And that's why in between elections, things get real kind of squirrely.
And this is Jim. We will close because we do have a Wild Wednesday coming up. But one of my good friends did a thesis on specifically LGBTQ issues and a journalist's response or journalist's responsibility to speak up about these things. It starts with the fourth estate, which is journalism. Is it our responsibility to host these conversations more and more so that it kind of intercepts social situations so that the population is not talking more about it? And if the population is talking more about it, then those in leadership have no choice but to listen.
I always say for LGBTQ rights, abroad they do too much, locally we do too little, right? Now the problem with the fourth estate is to what extent are they supposed to be activists? Right? And if they start to be activists, then they potentially start to get themselves into trouble. Because the whole point is to expose the truth. But to say now that you're going to be an activist, to fight for something, yes, you could do that in your individual capacity on your own time as a journalist, right? But to say that a media house that's supposed to be the news, it's not that they can't do it, it's just that to do it responsibly is tricky, and sometimes it's better to try to divest that function elsewhere. So it's still done, but not necessarily fully done by a media house.
I feel like as a journalist, your integrity is going to be shot if you speak up for certain activist issues. If you become an activist,
when a public issue happens, then a journalist reports on it, that's fine. But an activist will want to kind of keep the conversation going, right? And pushing for it. And it's not that a journalist can't do it. It's just that in the Western world and in the last 10 years or so, some journalists have gone too far. And that's partially why the movement abroad has gone off the rails, right? Whereas again, I would say we don't do enough. So things are still backwards here in certain respects because there's a lot of legal limbo for LGBTQ persons, which to me, there's a lot of legal limbo in a lot of things. So, but to me, you would hope that it would be cleared up, right? At the very least, so at least everybody knows where it stands, as opposed to just being this kind of informal, kind of informally don't ask to tell about everything, right?
Okay, so one thing we also want to talk about was stand your ground laws, and what seems like the rise in reported fatal RTAs happening in Trinidad and Tobago, which we will discuss on another day because we do have to close this segment right now. So yes, of course we love Sean here on AM Prime, and we will have him on another time shortly, so stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for Wild Wednesday. We're going to take a short break, and when we will be right back with you in a little bit. Stay with us.
Low energy? Heart concerns? Migraines slowing you down? It's time to take control of your health. Join Wellness Unlocked, the series that brings expert advice and real solutions for a healthier you. In our latest episode, learn how Jameson CoQ10 can help support heart health, boost energy, and even reduce migraines. Get the science, the stories, and the steps to power up your health with CoQ10. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and start your wellness journey today.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
Do you need treatment for obesity or any related abdominal procedures? The community hospital now offers minimally invasive laparoscopic surgery done by an American-trained, board-certified surgeon with over 20 years' experience. Give us a call at 235-5479 for more information.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
Money is something we all deal with, but how many of us truly understand it? What if you could make better decisions with your money? Decisions that secure your future, protect your family, and bring you peace of mind. I'm Darren Jacobs, and I'm here to help you make sense of your dollars. Welcome to Dollars and Cents, the show that breaks down the financial world in ways that matter to you. No jargon, no confusion, just real conversations about money, your money. So join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. on WESN for Dollars and Cents.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
Nah, you don't need to register nothing. You don't need, we can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
We believe we defend criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploited the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business. I'm not to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
let's go to the last part.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Our award-winning show is back, and this season promises to be even more exciting than before. What's Up, Doc isn't just a title, it's a call to action for anyone who wants to improve their health and well-being. Join us on this thrilling ride towards better health on WESN Content Capital.
We are tackling the hard-hitting topics, some controversial topics, some topics we sweep under the rug. You don't always have to forgive in a relationship for it to move forward.
If it is you are in a situation where you forgive the person, but to the detriment of yourself, what are you really doing?
It is very uncommon for somebody in the younger age group to have dementia.
Atheists don't not believe.
Is that I can't disprove God, but you also can't prove God, so we kind of have to stalemate.
We'll focus on the woman who's being the victim,
right,
or the man who's being the victim. We exclude the children.
Folks are trying to study the underlying brain mechanism to figure out how does this particular disorder happen in the brain? How is the brain processing this?
Don't worry about AI, worry about humans working with AI.
Are you willing to learn new skills to stay relevant for the future job market? That's the challenge that people are going to struggle with.
Good morning and welcome back to AM Prime on WESN. Remember, today is Wild Wednesday. All right, as you guys know, we have Mr. Ricardo Meade from the El Socorro Center for Wildlife Conservation here on the program this Wednesday. How are you doing, Mr. Meade?
I am doing great. Good morning to you, my lady, and good morning to our friends, followers, fans out there on the WWW. Wild Wednesday, always excited. One day of the week I'm excited to find something out there that's a little wild and come on here and present it to you, our followers out there. It's a wonderful day.
At my horror, most of the time. But honestly, I have to say I've really been enjoying this program because it has taught me a lot about how to handle certain animals that I come across. It has given me a lot of teachings. So I appreciate that, Mr. Meade.
Thank you, and thank you all for the opportunity to come into your homes and your lives.
Yes, I was actually very scared at first to hold anything. I remember having a very interesting conversation off air with Mr. Meade one time, saying, "Yo, I am not an animal person. I'm not a wildlife person. You need to keep certain things far away from me. Certain things we cannot do." I was setting boundaries. But Mr. Meade has helped me open up a little bit more to certain animals, certain wildlife. But today, he has brought something for us here. And I'm kind of alone in dealing with it this morning. I'm a little scared, and you all wouldn't see this, but I'm halfway off of my chair, ready to run if anything happens. So, Mr. Mead, kindly tell us, who do we have with us today?
So, this morning we present the ubiquitous and still at the same time much maligned Zanji.
Zanji?
Yeah, let's say like a true Trini. Zanji.
Zanji.
Is a Zanji.
Zanji.
She's falling off her chair with excitement here, folks. The Zanji has her on the edge of her seat.
Because they were telling me that this Zanji could jump out. And if it jumps out, it jumps on me, it jumps on my stuff, and they say it's slimy. They say it's slimy. I don't do slime. Look at me. I don't do slime. Okay? Mr. Mead.
Jada, you're young. So you haven't even, your roots haven't even really penetrated the soil to establish you as yet. So let those roots flow. Let them go where they may go and establish new boundaries and territories for yourself. Don't do it from on top. Let it go. You now start. My gosh, what I would give to be 23 again. But with what I know now. Now there is a formula to take over the world. There is a formula. I'm like 3 times your age. Oh my gosh, almost there. Almost there. You know, so just imagine that. Imagine the knowledge and wisdom you can accumulate in more than 40 years. Oh my gosh.
And he's imparting wisdom to me now through a Zanji. That's good.
Through a Zanji, right. So I'm going to put on a glove here. This strange position I'm in here, taking place of Miss McNish. So I'm going to put on a glove because, as Jada stated, this creature is slimy. I don't know if it's really going to work, but I just copped one around the corner at a food establishment. So it's not even the good gloves, as they say. It's really food handling gloves. It's just to minimize the level of slime on my hands. So the Zanji, and I know I saw the faces of people out there when I say Zanji. I can just see it. Zanji? You bring a Zanji in the studio? Yes, people, it's a Zanji. You know, the one that they claim sucks your toe, right? You know, yeah, that's what they say. It sucks your toe. And just to make sure, I actually don't even have on shoes below the counter here. So if he jumps off, I give him free access to my toes.
You set yourself up for that. You walked into that. You dug the hole and you walked into that. I'm not feeling sorry for you.
But they don't do it. That's a myth. They say so many things about this creature, it's just really not true. So we're here today, remember, it's about educating people. Not just presenting the animal. The animal has an opportunity to say, here I am. This is who I am. So first of all, people, it is not a snake. This is a fish. 100%.
I never see a fish look like this.
Well, you see, that's a unique thing. That's the amazing thing about life in Trinidad and Tobago to biodiversity, you know. Not everything is everything and the way we know everything to be.
Mr. Mead is looking at me.
All right, well, yes. Okay, it is part of nature, so it has an appreciation for beauty. So it's looking at you. Appreciate the moments, appreciate the moments, okay? Right? Because according to the lady, after menopause, they find the men no pause as much. So you take it before.
Well, no.
Right? Well, unless you're, you know, a gentleman of my capacity, then you would appreciate women who have matured well. Okay?
Yes.
You know, so when you get to that stage, they'll appreciate you. The right people will. Okay? The men won't pause, but the gentlemen will. And that's what you would prefer. All right? So there's always a good side in everything.
Yeah.
Not every mango is for you.
Not really. You don't want to be for every mango.
Yeah. So this, again, people, I'm stating it, is a fish. Okay? It has gills, internal gills, and it's able to breathe underwater and take oxygen through its gills and into its bloodstream, the same way you would take oxygen out of the air into your lungs and into your blood and allow you to continue functioning. But it has a unique ability to take oxygen from the air, so it doesn't have to be in water to breathe. It's sort of what they call like a labyrinth fish, kind of like a fighter.
Yeah.
The better they can come to the surface and just gulp air, and their body can process it, and they can continue living that way. Not many fishes can do that. I mean, there are a few, but compared to the many species of fish. Not many species have that ability. So it's a labyrinth. It can do that. And because part of that you can understand is because where it lives, murky, gunky. Sometimes the water is so solid. Let's imagine, it's so filled with sediment. It's more muck and mud than water. But this animal continues to breathe. And they would live in ponds, right? So there was a time when we had something called a dry season, which used to really be dry. Now we have a wettish season and a dryish season, right? Crop time really doesn't mean that much anymore. And that's all part of the effects of the way the climate, global climate is changing. So during the dry season, these guys would exist in ponds. And with each passing day in the hot sun, the ponds would dry down and get less and less. And they, just like cascadoo and some other fish we have, they would stay they go to the smallest puddle of water that there is left, and they would keep breathing and blowing bubbles. That bubbles allows literally like an air tube to grow from where they are to the surface. And they would stay in the moist mud down in the bottom there for months. So no water, just mud down below there, and they're far down enough that even if on top is hot, baking hot, they're much cooler down below. And they just have that little tube-like from the bubbles to the surface, and they breathe. And they stay there for months until June comes around, and then the rains come and starts to fill up that pond again, soften up the mud, and then they swim free again.
So they wouldn't need the water? Would they get a little bit of water in the mud?
No, they just stay damp enough. They will only die really when they dry out. So they can move on land. This is the amazing thing with this fish. So some of them, when you realize, you know what, hiding in this pond is not the best idea, they would literally pop out and say, I go in for a walk. And wiggle like a snake and find a larger body of water. That's probably more sustainable for them.
What do they eat?
They eat small fishes. They will eat earthworms. They would eat small crustaceans, small crabs, even snails.
So does that like they stick out their tongue like a lizard, or like how do they gulp?
No, they don't. They don't have that sort of feature at all. Not at all. Remember, it's not a reptile; it's a fish. So their tongues are actually mated to their palate and in their mouth. It doesn't stick out. There's no fish that's known that can stick out its tongue.
So it has to go close to its prey too.
Yeah, and it sucks it in. And they're just amazing. Guppies and those small fish, the jumping wabbing and so on like that. And the canal fish, that's their main phase. That's where you found them. So we found them right in the back of the center where the water runs down and goes to the Dachine patch and the little muddy area, especially now it had a couple of rain, showers a few days ago. So they're found there in that. So before that was almost dry. And then the rain comes and all of a sudden you see this guy just wiggling through the water and so on. So it's something that they do all the time.
How do they mate?
Well, I guess the way any fish would. The male will probably prepare a nest, and he would attract a female, and she would deposit her eggs, and then he would fertilize them, and they would stay in that quasi-earthen nest until they incubate there and hatch out, and then you have lots of tiny zanji who you probably would even think of fish, regular fish, because they're so tiny. Okay, and then they would develop and grow into this guy. This guy is tremendous size. Yeah. This is a tremendous size. I mean, they can grow up to about 4 feet long. This is one of the larger ones I've seen in a while. And part of the reason we hardly see them anymore, pollution and human actual straightforward interaction. Places where I know little streams and so on run, there's nothing there anymore. People would fill them and backfill, divert it into a concrete drain in the front and so on. But they're resilient. They have, for all that we have done, people pour in coolant and all different types of lubricants and oils and so on in our drains and polluting. They are just holding on because they are tough survivors. And anytime there's an ease back on people interaction, they bloom. So if an area where people are doing development before and you almost saw them gone, if there is a halt to that development or a pause or anything that happens and the bush starts growing back, all of a sudden between the bush there's water, and then you see there's frogs and there's fish, and then there's these guys. So they're amazing. And I can imagine too also, in Trinidad, like some people dig a pond and say, I never put any fish in there, and I wake up one morning and see a set of fish in there. Do you know how some of our fish get around?
Swimming.
Well, if you dig in the middle of a 1 acre piece of land, a pond, there's no way they could swim and get there. In fact, you just dug the pond and then the rain fell, fill it up. and then in a short space of time they're fish. How did that happen? Well, these guys can walk over land, literally walk, wiggle, curl, whatever you call it, over land to get there. But the fish, how do the fish get there? How do guppies just turn up there? Jumping warbine can also jump. They can have a possibility that they can jump if it's not too far. But the fish. Here's the strange thing. It is believed, and it has been proven, that fish come from the sky. Yeah. Look at Mr. Me like he's crazy.
Drains.
And here's how it works. The clouds literally pick up the fish and they rain fish down.
No.
Now, think about the size of a fry, a guppy fry. How tiny that is.
So they're saying
that will easily exist and travel within a raindrop. Fish larvae are so tiny, it has been proven that they do exist in raindrops.
I can't.
So you have a system where, with the swirling winds and stuff like that there, it can literally uptake larvae, which are extremely tiny, microscopic almost, uptake them into the water vapor and the water lifting, and then be deposited somewhere else. They can literally be blown. We have so much microclimate that we don't pay attention to. There's microclimate. So you're thinking of a big tornadoes. Look at a tornado. Look at Twister. I don't know if you're too young to remember. There's a movie called Twister, a series. And one of the funny scenes was a cow, a 1,200-pound black and white cow. The people sitting in their car in this Twister. Yeah. And the cow go, yeah, and move and swinging past their car a few times.
Yeah.
So scale that down a bit. Something that tiny as a drop of water can easily be lifted with swells of wind and the variance in temperature and so on like that there, and deposited somewhere. I have seen it for myself. Fish drop from the sky. It dropped to the ground and I looked and there were fish. Okay? Not big fish, but fish larvae. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the phenomenon. It occurred on the farm where we were because we had 11 water systems on the farm. And sometimes in areas you do get that microclimate water swirling and so on like that there and deposited in other places. So a lot of them would land on the ground and die, but it just needs a pair to get into that water. And before you know it, they mature, they breed, and there's a next reason they call them millions. That's how they breed, quickly.
Someone was saying birds, but wouldn't the birds eat it? Eat them?
The birds are not going to be in a cloud or a swirling.
I mean, like they would pick up if they see fish on the surface, and they'd pick up and then drop.
They can travel in so many ways. There's so many ways. But in a case where it's what you would call a virgin area where no one has walked into the area or anything like that, because literally also like frogs' eggs. You walk through one swampy area in your boots and they stick onto your boots, and then you walk into another area like, oh, my boots are muddy. So you'd go into a cleaner water body and try to wash that off. You just transferred eggs, but not only frog eggs, snail eggs, including now the big problem we have in Trinidad and Tobago, GAS, giant African snails. They can attach to almost anything. Okay, the eggs, and then now you go and wash it off in a new body of water. You just brought stuff from Cedrus or Victoria Gardens to your pristine area in central Trinidad. That's how these things transfer. Okay, so you have to understand the resilience of Mother Nature in terms of adaptability, survivability, and sustainability. They figure out ways. I mean, humans are doing their very best to make sure that they don't, but they figure out ways, and that is just one of the ways. So tadpoles, all different types of fish, crustaceans will travel in the same way and get there. And then all of a sudden, in your literally virgin pond, you have teeming with life and biodiversity, and you did nothing to put that there. You just cleared the land and dug, you know, because the surveyor said it's a nice area to dig a pond for your agricultural use, and all of a sudden there's all sort of stuff there going on, warbine and zanji and cascadoo and cascara, but you name it. It's just amazing how things develop here in this country. And that's just how biodiverse we are. And these are the things that we need to cherish. Our cascadoo, you know the legend of the cascadoo? The legend of the cascadoo is, if you eat cascadoo, you will end your days here in Trinidad. So it have two people operate on boat on a different time. Some people not eating cascadoo.
No.
So they wouldn't dare interested. That's stupid. I had my share of cascadoo. It's also known as armored catfish in the US. And there are actually a couple different kinds. And it is one of the most challenging fish to eat because of those bony, scaly plates. But my gosh, done right by the right tanti, it is one of the most delicious meals I have ever had. It is absolutely delicious.
Can you eat zanji?
Of course you can. It's a fish.
You can take it out for us?
You gonna try it?
No.
You're not gonna bite it?
No.
Are you gonna hold it?
No.
So why am I taking it out?
Because I think we should see it.
All right, let's see here. So, folks, I'm just letting you know, and you also, this could get dramatic. Okay, this is a big guy.
Okay, so don't take it out.
And I'm going to do my best. Ooh, the water's cool. Nice. And look, the water cool is actually good. It's going to keep him a little... so it's very difficult to hold because, look, it is just sliding through. But I'm going to do my best. He has a big mouth with a big head. So if he does decide, hey, I can bite you, he's going to deliver quite the hell of a bite to me. So I'm this. So this is him here. Here we go. Look at this. Look at this. There he goes. I'm not doing anything. He's just go. Oh, there we go. Lovely. Back in. This is our zanji, ladies and gentlemen. It's actually sold in pet shops in the US as a brown swamp eel.
Yeah, because when you first brought it in, I asked if it was an eel.
Right.
So is his eyes that black thing at the side, or?
Yeah. Beetle eyes, the eyes do not do much for them. Okay? You're not going to see much in brown, murky waters like we have here in Trinidad. So the eyes are just there.
He's muscly.
Yes. So you see, that is why you can eat it. There's a lot of fish in this fish. It's not very bony. It's just like a lot of fish you can get out of this fish. Let's get him out here. Yeah. It's got fish. They shot the camera. Oh, he's behaving really nice today. That is lovely. So this might be the first time, ladies and gentlemen, somebody was whacked out of their mind enough to present a zanji on air like this. But it really is one of my favorite because of I got drawn to this fish because of what people said about it. Just like snakes. Oh, snakes are horrible. I want to find out. I want to know. It can't be, you know. But this, never had my toes sucked, and I've been in many swampy, horrible canal drains, barefoot or just my little push-toe rubber ding-dings, and I've never had my toes sucked. There we go again. Oh, look at that.
Ooh,
what a
he wants to go back into that water.
Muscular creature, you know.
Maybe because the air is so cold.
Yes, look at his tail. Look at the tail there. Okay, flattened it's all for one thing, for swimming. They can swim. Yeah, you go ahead.
Ooh, it's slimy, guys.
Yeah. Well, any fish would be slimy. There's no fish you can hold and it wouldn't be slimy. They all have that slime to protect their body. You know, it's like a gel coating on them almost that helps with their movement through the water and so on. Yeah, so this guy, and it's amazing. I learned from, we have an amazing young lady from the UK. Well, she's not that young anymore. I remember when she was young. She's been around with us for a while. Dr. Amy Deacon. She is the one of the top guppy researchers in the world. And why guppy? Like, why guppy? Well, Trinidad is recognized as where the guppies come from. I mean, there are in other places, and well, the fancy guppies that you see in pet shops now were actually taken to Thailand and Singapore, and they were morphed and bred and crossbred and so on, and you have the big fantails and so on. Our guppy is known as we call it locally the 7 colors. It's like every color of the rainbow on that fish in a little splotch here and there. And they would have bred them to get in blue, black, gold, white, platinum, all these amazing colors and different size of fantails and so on like that there. There's one, the cobra, one of my favorites, the delta cobra with a massive tail, all from our wild species. When you understand plants and animals, like the anthurium came from a wild one in the forest whose leaves were huge and flowers were tiny. But for our aesthetic appreciation, they made it so now the leaves are small and the flowers are big and perfectly heart-shaped. That's what we know an anthurium as. But when I show you the original, you're going to be like, that's an anthurium? Same thing with the guppy. So that's where it came from. And they're live bearers, which is an exciting thing about them. When you mine them, it's usually many people first fish. You go in the canal and you catch some fish and you mine your first set of fish in a barrel or in an old fridge or something. And when they put on babies, you get up to 20, 25 babies sometimes from a nice big female. I mean, you know when that female is about to give because her stomach is huge and her back end of her belly is transparent. So you can actually see the dark spots there that represent the fish when they come out. And they do well. But they share the environment with these guys. And I remember when we did a presentation many years ago for Atlantic Down in Point Fortin, Dr. Deacon worked with us, and she did the illustrations for these. And she was pointing out that research has shown that when guppies are near Zanji, they are terrified. They literally start to vibrate. You see them shaking like that there because they know this is the bad man. This is the guy who's going to just literally swim through and suck us down. And I learned so much. But what Trinidad is important for guppy research is that we have so many different field stations and areas. So you can go all over Trinidad in hours in it. Whereas if you did it in South America, it would take you days, weeks, months, and a lot of money. You jump in your one car, you go, let's say, Balandra, you come back to Blanchisseuse, you go down Grandy, you go Biche, you go down Manzanilla, you go Kernahan. All of that you could do in one day.
Yeah.
No other country in the world you could do that sort of thing. And now you're comparing the animals in these different ecosystems and environments to see how they adapted and how they change. And that is important because it helps us to understand how we have adapted and how we change, or how we can do things to retrograde or go back to some of the aspects of our lives that were better than where we are now. So the modern technology has given us lovely advantages and so on like that there. But we have a major problem that now we don't have to work as hard. Obesity sets in.
Yeah.
We don't have to find food. It's there. And we have a lot of health problems and chronic diseases that sets in. So looking back and understanding the connections is important for our health and our well-being. So everything we do, it comes back down to how we live and how we spend our time sensibly and sustainably on this planet. Because anything else is going to mean that we're going to be really racing towards the end game. And nobody really wants that at all. So we learn from the animals. Like even in Trinidad, there is a place where there is a catfish that is blind. So it got into these caves, pretty much, and there's no light source. So if there's no light source, you can't see.
There's no use for your eyes.
No use for the eyes. So same thing with this guy. This guy's a little beady dots that he doesn't really see anything. You know?
So he has to feel around?
They have, remember, their body is totally immersed in water. And your body produces electricity. So there is always a little electromagnetic field from themselves and other animals in the water. So they get that sense. Okay, it's almost like if they have like a magnetic imaging, right? Like they have their own MRI in the water. So they can figure out where things are based on that.
This is a huge guy, guys. I don't know if you're seeing, but from his side where you can see his full face, he's a big head.
You just expel some air. Yeah, it's a big guy. Look at that.
Yeah, because even, is that normal? Like it's
yeah, they're breathing and so on, yeah.
Yeah.
They can store air and breathe in and out. See, it goes back up, see?
Yeah.
Lovely, lovely. That's that. I am so fascinated and much. I love when feeding time and they just sort of have a fish trapped in the corner and they just do the gulp and just suck them. Look at them, they're just going backwards. Look at that. Just going backwards.
He just wants the water.
Back in there.
Santan.
Right, and just all slime. I'm so glad for these gloves this morning, so at least I can take them off afterwards and have normal function on my hand. Else I would have to literally race to the bathroom
and
scrub down, you know.
Yeah, which is because of my little touch. My hands still smell fishy, so I want to run to the restroom to really wash my hands.
So that might be the go today, fish. Maybe that's what I'll have for lunch today, some fish. Well, kingfish or carrot, not Zanji, kingfish or carrot, something like that.
Okay, that's what I mean. You see, you're dealing with fish and I want to go eat fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he smells very fishy. He smells very fishy.
Yeah, that's giving me that real fish vibes there. I really would like to try the fish.
I don't think that's how it's supposed to work.
Really? So when you walk past certain restaurants and you smell that oil, which is oftentimes much used, and you're like, oh my gosh, fries, I can eat this and that brand. That's not how it works?
No, I don't do that.
What's your favorite fast food?
I don't know.
You like barbecue?
Not really.
What do you like?
I think your chicken is a little bit too much of a mouthful sometimes.
All right.
I like Subway. No free promo.
Eat fresh, right? No. Well, you don't get fresher than this fish right here in more ways than one. Very, very fresh smell, you know. Again, I always say, I always wish it was smell-o-vision so you can get a sense of the smells that we do go through here in the studio sometimes when these animal comes in. But people, these guys, most of the times you're going to see them way smaller than this. This is a rare instance to see them this big.
Is he going into an aquarium that's bigger or something that's bigger? Because he seems...
Oh, we're going to put him right back in the dashing patch in the back.
Okay,
because
perfect.
I do not have the time to go and catch fish to feed this guy all the time. So he's going back in his dashing patch in the back and like up himself.
Yeah, I think...
Okay, a lot of creatures, they just, you know, leave them alone. There's no need... You know, if you're a hobbyist and you have the ways and the means to take care of it, okay, fine. Or if it's going to be used, see, we took him out, we used him for the education program, which is here this morning, okay, and now he's going to go back. If we have cause to use it again, we probably will be able to go right back there and find him right there, use him again and put him back in. And it's easy for us to do that because of his nature. Look at it. Right now, his head is actually out of the water.
Yes, it is.
He's quite comfortable being out of the water, breathing air. It's not a problem for him. So whereas we'd have a problem with other fish in terms of keeping the water conditions favorable for them, this guy, this is heaven. Yeah, this is heaven for him compared to the mud and slime and oil and gunk that he exists in naturally. But there he is quite at home. So we're not worried about him.
Is when he has his face, when like his chin puffs up a little bit, is that why? Like, is he uncomfortable? Is he too comfortable?
No, that's part of his breathing process. He's up there now and breathing, right?
So he's taking in the air.
He's actually more acting as a labyrinth fish, taking in that oxygen from out of the air itself instead of the water, and he's just comfortable. You know, he's not trashing around. Notice this fish was the calmest, coolest. Wasn't the same way last night when we were catching him. You know, so this is...
He's behaving because I am
right. So this is what we need people to understand. What we go through sometimes to make a Wild Wednesday ain't always just we'll take this animal or that animal. We've just about gone through our ambassadors that are capable. Not everything we are capable of bringing on the air. Like we definitely can't bring the ocelot. We don't have it that way. But there's so many other life forms that are around us. And that people need to learn to understand how to manage and cope, and sometimes even, you know, mediate the human-wildlife conflict. So we're using that opportunity for an all-around. So actually, the creature that we're going to bring today, we went only back to get him, and we saw this, and it was like, that's Wild Wednesday for tomorrow. So the creature for today, he will be here next week, and don't worry, Princess, we will give you an opportunity to kiss him. That should be a big hint there. And a lot of people know one time what we're talking about.
You're kidding. No.
Took you a little while there. You think you got it? But yeah, that creature is amazing. We have a whole story. I've dealt with that creature when I was managing pet shops away, and the stories behind that is just amazing.
Mr. Mead, I can't get behind that one. We'll see. We'll see.
Just don't kiss him. You know, that's the reason why many people don't like them, right?
Because of the movie?
Women. No, well, it reminds them of times in their life where they've kissed so many and they just never turned into that prince, you know. So they do harbor and they do tote. So when they see them now on the front step, they choose violence as the option. Okay, but it's not the creature's fault, ladies. This is directed at the ladies. Men don't fear these guys. It's the women who always freak out when they see these animals. As you can see with Jada's face.
No, the men too. I've had a couple of friends that I've had to calm down, male friends that I've had to calm down around those animals.
We will insist upon a DNA test.
Anyway, we do have to wrap here. I want to say goodbye to this little dude, well, big dude, Zanzan. I'm going to call him Zanzan.
Zani.
Zani. Thank you for joining us here on AM Prime. Zani, do not jump. Do not jump. You've been doing so well. He just wants to go back into the water. I wonder if it's really cold for him. Bye, Sandy.
No, it won't be cold for him. It's not that cold in here at all.
He just wants to go back into the water.
Yeah.
He's long.
Yep, he's at least 18, almost 20, probably 20 inches easily. There, yeah, he wraps around the container and doubles up inside there. So.
And his tail coming onto the end is flat. His tail is flat.
Swimming, yeah. All like even the sea snakes and so
Yeah.
on, they're that flattened, because that's where they get their propulsion from, by moving it like that. Same way you would put on flippers for better propulsion in the water. So the physics is there throughout, you know, with the biomimicry. We seeing what the animals do and using it to our interest and our benefit.
Well, thank you, Zani, for joining us on AM Prime. Thank you, Mr. Mead, for
Thank
joining
you
us
as we
on AM Prime.
drip slime back into the enclosure.
Because it's dripping slowly, because it really, watch that, if you see between the gloves, it's slimy. And I'm still feeling it on my fingers, even though you're not seeing it. But yeah, thanks for coming on, Zani. You were wonderful. You were a wonderful guest. Thank you.
Too bad you didn't jump out, but
Not too bad. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. And I know Wild Wednesday is something that you, the viewers, pretty much enjoy. If you want to see a little bit more behind the scenes, you can go to our Instagram, WESNCC, or you can go follow the Azukuru Center for Wildlife Conservation, where you'll see all of the escapades and adventures. I love to watch them, because you see the most incredible rescues and all of these things going on. You're like, how are you doing that? I don't know how you are doing that, but you are. And I thank you for your work, Mr. Mead.
Thank you for having us here on behalf of Zani and myself. Thank you for having us here. It's Wild Wednesday, folks. Go out and do something wild, but do something good. You know, don't harm anything. Don't harm anybody. Be nice to your neighbor. You know, even they might be surprised that you're actually nice to them, and that'll be a wild day for them. You know, don't be like Mervyn and them kind of thing.
I'm not even, I don't ask anymore. I don't ask anymore. But as always, you can engage with us on WESN TV, WESN CC, or you can WhatsApp us at 682-9376, 682-9376. You can find Naomi or at Naomi McNish on Instagram, or you can find Mr. Mead at the, I believe it's
ECWC_TT, the El Socorro Center for Wildlife Conservation.
As much as you can acronym it, you can find it on Instagram. Or you can find myself at I am Jada McLeod on Instagram as well. So again, thanks for joining us here. It's been a lovely show. We have so much in store for you for the rest of the week and the coming weeks. We're working really hard to bring to you the best updates, the most current news updates that's lively and entertaining, as well as educational. So stay with us forever and ever and ever. Thanks again, Mr. Mead.
Thank you. You all have yourselves a wonderful day.
And yes, our quote for today is, one today is worth two tomorrows. What I am to be, I am now becoming. One today is worth two tomorrows. What I am to be, I am now becoming.
Sounds like a good investment strategy. Invest in yourself today.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Invest in yourself today. One today is worth two tomorrows. I like that. I like that a lot. Anyway, you can stay with us, stay tuned, stay wild, and stay on WESN as Sean Michael Small is coming up with Talking Point on the hour. Again, stay with us forever and ever and ever, and we will see you back here tomorrow on AM Prime on WESN. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
WESN.
Hi, I'm Claudette, radiographer at the radiology departments at the community hospital. We offer high-quality service with state-of-the-art equipment in X-ray, ultrasound, CT, and mammogram. Come, our friendly staff awaits you.
Give us a call at 235-5479.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
Low energy? Heart concerns? Migraines slowing you down? It's time to take control of your health. Join Wellness Unlocked, the series that brings expert advice and real solutions for a healthier you. In our latest episode, learn how Jameson CoQ10 can help support heart health, boost energy, and even reduce migraine.